Morning. I hope everybody's having a wonderful day today. It is here in Corpus Christi, Texas, down here in the south. It is a gorgeous day, blue skies, a little bit of clouds going on here, but still a beautiful day. Brett, there you are. Let me go ahead and bring you in. There he is.
Hey, sounds a little bit better now.
Yeah, you sound good on my end.
Okay, good. So Rich, again, all right, so we'll start over here from the beginning. Appreciate you being here with us here in Freedom Financial Solutions. We do these agents roundtable interviews 2 Wednesdays out of the month, and you've taken the time out of your schedule to come and be with us here today. And wanted to first take some time to tell everybody a little bit about you, and I won't steal your thunder. I'll allow you to talk a little bit about yourself and your consulting firm, and all the great things that you folks are doing. But you were somebody that I got connected to right through the interwebs, right through social media here over the last few years, and I've been following what you've been doing throughout your career. You're a #1 best-selling author, which is extremely impressive. Congratulations on that great accomplishment. You're a consultant, you're a writer, you're a speaker, you're a coach. I know that you've been featured in several major publications like Addicted to Success and Inc. Magazine. You're the owner of your own consulting firm. And I believe also maybe you've also been featured in the magazine publication called Entrepreneur. Which is, again, a very huge accomplishment, very well-known publication. If you walk through any airport in America and you go into any bookstore in any airport, that magazine is front and center. So that's pretty cool. And so what I'd like to do is just kind of maybe just pick your brain a little bit and, find out a little bit about, what are your thoughts and ideas in regards to being an independent agent working in financial services, specifically the life insurance industry, and what advice could you give, well over 300 folks that are sitting in the group here today that are going to be watching this over the next few weeks, over the next few months. This will be housed in our Facebook group, and we're adding people every day. And so with that, I'll turn the interview over to you and let you do your thing here.
Cool, awesome, Brett. First of all, man, thank you so much for the opportunity. To me, it is it's an honor, it's a privilege, and I feel blessed to be able to be on here to add some value to your people and in your group here to all these financial professionals. #1, I tell you this, for me, this is the best time ever to be in this field and be in this industry. So myself, I've been in the industry for 13 and a half years. I've been independent for 3 years. I was working on the corporate side of things for 10 and a half years, almost 11 years, excuse me. And I was a manager, building teams, recruiting, developing, training, growing people. And we had one of the #1 staffs in our district, or in our region, highest paid agents. I was one of the highest paid managers. I mean, we had our stuff on lock. There were a lot of principles that we worked specifically off of that were not by the book. They were not by what the company was telling us. They were not by the training manuals that they were giving us. This was stuff that I had learned, and I had been burned by the system. So I took a risk to do it my way, and what I saw where there was a need. And so like you mentioned, I'm a best-selling author. We wrote the book. Matter of fact, actually 2 years ago, yesterday, we wrote the first book, Taming Turnover, Creating Company Culture Where Insurance Agents Prosper. You can actually get it on Amazon. It's a yellow book. You can't miss it. And I'm on the front of the cover. So, but I consult for various different companies, some Fortune 100 and 500 companies. A couple of my few clients that I personally work with now with my consulting side of my business and speaking side of the business is I work with New York Life. They're one of my companies that I work with. Western Southern, worked with Aflac. I've worked with Mutual of Omaha. I've done some work with a lot of brokerages and smaller agencies. and a lot of other companies in different industries as well. Done some international work in Jamaica, in Cozumel as well. Yes, I specifically targeted those places so I could also have a free vacation with my family.
You got to have that work. You got to have that work fun balance relationship.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And so, and just to kind of let you guys know up front, man, I'm a pretty laid back kind of person. I try to live life to its fullest. I love to be happy. I love to smile. I love to have a good time. Life is just too short for us to not be able to enjoy what we're doing and just love life, have joy, have happiness, and enjoy what we're doing. So, like you said, I write for Entrepreneur Magazine, or for Entrepreneur. We were just actually featured. My company and I were featured in Inc. magazine a few months ago, which was a huge accomplishment for us. I write for a few other major personal and professional development publications as well. And so one of the big things, like the name of my consulting firm and my company is Elevation Consulting Firm. And we believe in growing people. Grow your people to grow your profits. If you're not growing as a person, you're not going to grow your profits, or it's not going to be sustainable. That's just the way it is, period. And so for myself, that you asked me a question just about the advice I would give to financial professionals. And this is one of the biggest things I would tell you today. You should be proud of who you are and what you do. There should be no shame in your game. A lot of times you meet people that are salespeople and they're like kind of like keeping on the down low unless they're making bukus of money, right? And then they're like, they don't care. But when you're on the rise up and you're kind of on your way there, you haven't quite hit your six figures yet. You kind of had a couple of good years here and there, and you're kind of just getting, or maybe you're just new into the industry. And so you not want to quite tell everybody that you're in that yet because you don't want to commit to it. Let me tell you something. My wife is a NICU nurse and she makes very good money. She's been a NICU nurse for the last 13 years, and we've been married 13 years as well. But I've always made more money than she does. Always. Oh, by far. And I've always been in the insurance industry. And so I want to tell you, there's a pride and there is that you should be able to grab a hold of, because you are a licensed professional. Not everybody can do what you're doing unless they have a license in the state that you're in. So you're a licensed professional. So that's one of the first things I would tell you is that take pride in what you do. Love what you do. Get passionate about what you do. You help people, and you've got a great opportunity to make very, very good money, and you get able to make also long money. So you should take pride in what you're doing. So that's one of the first things I would bits of information that I would kind of throw out there.
That's awesome. And I've met people in the past who you ask them, hey, so what do you do for a living? And they say, well, I'm in the copier business.
Yeah.
Or I'm in the advertising business. Okay, in what capacity?
Right.
Well, I go out and I mean, okay, so you're in sales. Yeah. Let's just say it. You're in sales. You're a saleswoman, a salesman. Right. Take pride in that. If that's what you're doing, that's what, right? And so I agree with you, on that. Let me ask you, so what would be some advice that you would give the agents who, a lot of our folks are part-time? I'd say maybe 50% are, maybe even higher than that, maybe 65 to 70% are a part-time agent, and then the other balance is a full-time agent. This is what they do day in, day out. What type of advice, I guess for either or, would you give them in terms of balancing that work-life balance between their full-time job, their part-time business that they're having pride in, and then their personal business? How would you recommend balancing that?
So there's a couple of articles that I've actually written already. If you go to Entrepreneur, if you can just Google this, type in Richard Trevino II, entrepreneur contributor or something like that, and go down the line of a few of the articles that I've written. Go to my profile. You can actually see some of the articles I've written in there. Also on Addicted to Success. That's an amazing publication, by the way, especially for entrepreneurs or for people that are getting into the entrepreneurial world. That's huge. Any business person, you want to get filled with a lot of good, positive information and practical information. That's a good place. Also, Thrive Global. That's another good one. But if you type my name in and you search those three out, there's a bunch of content that I put out on specifically that, on how to be able to keep that work-life balance. So one of the things that I always tell a lot of my coaching clients is this: it's hard. It's hard. Period. It's going to be difficult. nothing in life worth having is going to be easy. And you got to get that out of your head like now, like yesterday. You know what I'm saying? Perfect time to do it is right now because we're in the beginning of the year. So you get your thinking right and everything starts moving in the right direction. So take off those false expectations that that there is an easy balance to this. There's not. There's not an easy balance to this. Why? Because what you're doing is worth it. What you're doing has value. So it's going to cost you. Anything with value is going to cost. You can buy Timex and you can spend 10 or 12 bucks on that and they're made decently, but it's not a quality when you're comparing it to a Rolex or something like that. The quality is completely different. You buy a Rolex or you buy a tag or whatever you buy, that is going to cost you. Why? Because it's quality, and anything in life is going to cost you. So as far as a work-life balance, if you're working a job right now, or you even have a career, right? I hate when people dog people and they're like, oh, you have a job, you got a job, you got a just over broke. Well, at least they've got a job. You know what I'm saying? Right. I mean, they're trying to make it, man. Don't never hate on somebody like that, right? And I really dislike when people do that. So if you've got a job right now or you're working, hey, good for you. Good for you. You're trying to provide for your family. You're like the rest of it, just trying to make it, right? So if you've got a full-time job or even a part-time job, and you're also adding the insurance financial side of this to this, and you're being an insurance agent and you're trying to work at that and building your practice and building your book of business, keep on doing it, whatever it takes. Like Grant Cardone, I know a lot of y'all probably know who he is, maybe some of you don't, but WIT, right? Whatever it takes. Some people say, like, there's a quote that he always says that when people ask you, what do you do? Tell them whatever it takes. I do whatever it takes. So
that's right.
If you're working right now in a job and you also are trying to make time for that to build your practice, great, by all means, go for it. If you're going to put an extra hour or two in a day, cool, do that. If you're going to put 4 hours, 5 hours after that, cool, do that. Whatever you decide to do, just understand whatever you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. So right. there isn't a real balance to it. The reality is that if you really want it to happen, if you really want to explode your practice, you really want to be able to swap out your income or what you're currently making at your job or your position or your career that you're currently at, the company that you're at, and you want to do financial sales for insurance, be an insurance agent for full time, and you want to replace that income, it's going to cost. I always tell a lot of companies this. It's like if you take a balloon, right? You take a balloon and let's say my head is the balloon, and I push it right dead center. What's gonna happen? This side is gonna come out, and this side is gonna get squished. The middle is gonna be. I mean, I'm just visualizing that right now in my face, and it kind of. But the middle would be squeezed down, and the outsides would be kind of smushed out to the sides, right? For if you have a balloon. So think about it this way. What if I go a little bit this way where my part's at and I squish this side? Well, this side's going to be smaller, but this side's going to be freaking huge, right? And vice versa. If I push on this side's going to be huge, but this side's going to be small. Dude, can you get any more non-technical than that? No, I can't. Sorry. I like to keep things very simple. So what I'm telling you is this. Your business, your practice, the success of it, you getting to the place of what you would consider successful, making a good income that you can replace your job for, it's going to cost you. It has a certain capacity. The balloon has a certain capacity inside of it. And now if I squeeze it in the front end, the back end is going to be heavy. If I squeeze it in the back end, the front end is going to be heavy. What does that even mean? Get to the point, right? Okay, I needed you to see all of that to know this. If you put the work in the beginning, or you put it in the end, it's going to require a certain amount of capacity, a certain amount of work. Now, it's up to you and me to be able to choose, well, do I want to do it now, or do I want to do it in the middle, or do I want to do it at the end? When do I want my success to happen? When do I want it to blow up? When do I want it to happen? It's completely up to you. So there's no wrong way of doing it. It's all life choices. If I want to be able to have more success faster, then guess what? I've got to be able to do the work up front. I want to be able to do majority of the work up front, put the time in now, have my family on board, How do you have your family on board doing stuff like that? Whenever you've got to go play with the kids, you got to make time for the spouse. You've got to make time for your health. You got to make time for your own sanity, for your health, right? How do you do all that? How do you
Sure.
find a balance? You don't. There is no balance right now. You just figure out how much you want to do right now. Number one, talk to your family. Be very open about where you're at, what you're doing. They may not understand you, but they will respect the fact that you have taken the time to respect their feelings. If you just do it and say, I'm doing it, look, I promise you, I've been there. I promise you.
Oh, yeah.
I've almost lost my wife. I've almost lost my family.
Yeah.
I've almost lost my mind because I just did, running after, grinding,
Right.
pushing, pressing, going after it. And I never explained myself. I don't have to explain myself to anybody. I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for y'all. But guess what? All my wife wanted was an explanation of, where are we going? What are you doing? What's the direction?
Right.
What's the plan? I had this preconceived notion that she wouldn't understand it. She's not gonna agree with it. She's not gonna go with me. She's not gonna support it. And that's maybe true. But at least you give them the benefit of the doubt and you share with them the vision. And then you can slowly work on that as well. But as far as that, I mean, planning is huge. If you're not planning, you don't have a weekly planner or a monthly planner, weekly planner, daily planner, whatever. You don't have a planner of some kind, and you're just swinging from the hip, and you're shooting from the hip. Hey, you know what? You'll hit and miss, but you're probably going to miss more than you hit. So if I can give you a word of advice, I would tell you that. Get really serious about your planning. You know, figure out what you want, get your goals down, figure out when do you want it, and then go after it. But make sure everybody's on board. And even if they're not on board, because my wife has not always been on board with everything I do, especially when I started building my consulting firm, started building my coaching firm, she wasn't on board with it. When I wrote the book, she thought I was crazy. She thought I lost my mind, that I wanted to be a writer all of a sudden. I wanted to write this book. When I launched my book, the night of, I was doing a solo launch. I literally was in my room, launching the book, going live, slamming the phones, texting everybody, trying to get the word out because I had a vision.
Sure.
And guess where my wife was at? She was in the other room watching a show with my son in there, and I bought pizza so we could kind of celebrate. And I would walk outside and I say, hey, guess what? We just hit bestseller status. And she's like,
How did that happen?
How did that happen? Like, she realized now that all of a sudden, maybe this fool ain't crazy after all. Maybe he's on something. So let me tell you this. You want your family on board? You want your people on board? You want your peeps on board? Do one thing, or maybe two. Tell them what you're doing. Let them know what's going on. And even if they don't accept it, just get results. That's it. If you can get some kind of result to show them, they don't have the same mindset as you. They may not have the same capacity of thinking as you, that you have a vision. Maybe they are like my wife, and she's a more practical person. She's a nurse. She's more in the science. So she wants physical data. Like, she wants to see it. So if I show her a check that says, hey, look, we sold X amount of books and there's X amount of $1,000 that came in, or hey, guess what? I just sold this policy and I just made $2,500 commission. She's like, well, that makes sense now. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So get results.
The deposits always make sense.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And even if it doesn't make sense to them up here, like, okay, I got it all figured out, I understand what you're doing, they at least their confidence level in you goes, okay, cool. That's all I needed to know. You know what you're doing. I thought you were going crazy for a minute. When we hit our top 10, I walked out and I told my wife, hey, guess what? We're top 10 in 2 different categories right now. She's like, wow. And she was putting my son to sleep. It was about 10 o'clock at night when it happened. It was a Friday night. And I told her, I was very upset. I'll tell you that right now. I was very upset because I didn't, she wasn't on board. But then she says, I'll be right in there with you after. I said, no, don't come in. I don't want you to come in. I know you ain't been in here for the last 3 hours. No problem. So it was a really hard time. So I'm telling you from this side. I'm not telling you because I read it in a book, or I'm not telling you because I heard this story one day. I'm telling you from real life situations. Like, had I explained to her better, I probably would have better results too. So be open with them. Let them know the direction and the path that you're on. That will help you in the long run and in the short run.
Great advice. Great analogy with the balloon. I love the balloon analogy. For some reason, I just kept looking at you like you had like your face was an orange balloon. So it was a great analogy and great practical advice, because we both know from being in the insurance industry that when you begin an endeavor like this, and you're going to be going on the nights during the week, when normally you're home having dinner, or you're going to be gone on a Saturday afternoon and you may not make the soccer game, or right after church on a Sunday, you may disappear for 3 hours. There has to be some communication there between all parties that are involved, right? We're always having enrollment conversations. Every conversation you have with your spouse and your children, they're enrollment conversations. To get your kid to brush his teeth, that's an enrollment conversation.
Exactly.
And to have your spouse understand that daddy or mommy may not be around for a few hours on a Wednesday night, that has to be an enrollment conversation.
Absolutely.
Yep. So here was a question that I had was, like, what advice would you give? So we operate, you had said something earlier. So we operate as human beings on autopilot. About 75% of our day is based on autopilot. How we drive our car, we brush our teeth, what we do throughout our day at our jobs, it's autopilot. We're preconditioned. How do you go from being in autopilot to being present in like an entrepreneurial endeavor where you have to be on, right? You have to be different in a home or business, talking to an individual about life insurance, about tax-free retirement. There's a certain makeup that, or almost a character that needs to come out, right? So what advice do you think that you could give in maybe teaching people how to go from being in autopilot to being present in the moment and putting on that entrepreneurial hat? Oh, and just so you know, when we wrap, I would love for you to go into the comments and drop those links where they can find those articles that you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll definitely do that. So, and it's funny because as soon as you started talking about this topic here, I started immediately thinking about the hats, because in my with my personal coaching clients, and I do group coaching as well, but in those group programs that I do, and any coaching that I do, always, number one thing, the first thing we go over is self-awareness. Self-awareness is so important. You've got to be ever present. You've got to know who you are, where you're going, and where you've been. And I always tell people this, like, you cannot, like, everybody, especially right now during this time of the year, everybody's setting these goals and they're setting, different expectations for themselves and aspirations they have and all these things. And that's all good. Like, I'm all for that. Some people hate on people and they're like, that's dumb. You made a New Year's resolution, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, at least we're making a New Year's resolution. At least I want to get better. Right. How about you? You're going to stay the same jerk that you were last year? But for myself, man, I always tell people you can't know where you're going unless you know where you currently are, right? So if I want to go to New York and I'm here in Corpus, and that's South Texas for y'all that don't know, I've got to know where I'm at right now in order to be able to make a plan to where I'm going, because you can't just pick a spot and say I'm going to go north, because if I just go straight north, guess what? I'll end up in Nebraska somewhere. I think I'm on Nebraska, but I'll go straight up into the wrong part of the nation, right? So I've got to know where I'm at right now. In order to know where I am at right now, I've also got to know where I'm coming from, where I came from. So there's some things I've got to deal with in my past and come to terms with as well. So self-awareness is huge. It's one of the most important things. You got to know who you are, what your capacity is, what your capabilities are, what your talents are, what your resources are, what do you have in your toolbox? Who are you? Who are you in different places? So if I'm at home, I'm a different guy than I am if I'm at the office, and I'm a different person. Like you mentioned, the hats. I'm wearing a different hat when I'm in a coaching call. I'm wearing a different hat with my parents. I'm also an associate minister at our church, so I'm wearing a different hat when I'm over there. when I'm on the keyboard, because I do the music ministry as well, I got to wear a different hat there. You know, I'm not the head pastor of the church, so I got to be in a different role there. And I'm also not the CEO of the company there, so I'm going to be in a different capacity. So everywhere I go, I have to be very conscious of who I am for this person that's in front of me. So if I'm with a client, guess what? I've got to understand what their needs are and who I am for them and to them. So being ever present and knowing what value that you bring to the audience that you're in at that moment is super important. A lot of times people are like, I'm the same person everywhere. I don't change. I'm the same person wherever you see me. And that's a bunch of BS. It's not true. And if it is true, I promise you, you've got a lot of different issues going on, because I can't be the same person that if I walk into my house as the CEO and founder of the company over there with that mindset, which has happened in the past, it creates problems. Even though my wife and I have a very good understanding of our roles in our home and what we do, if I walk in there with that kind of mindset, she'll shut it down. She's like,
Sure. Yeah.
you ain't no CEO founder over here. I don't care what books you wrote. I don't care what.
I was going to say, all of a sudden, all of your job titles and all of your accolades and accomplishments, all the ministry work, it goes out the door. Why? Because she knows you as Richard, and she's
Absolutely.
like, wait a second. Let's put everything into perspective here.
Exactly. And again, I'm just trying to keep it real with you. So, so this stuff sticks with the audience. That's the way it is. And you've got to be ever present. You've got to be very self-aware that, okay, a lot of times people always talk about when you come home, make sure you take off that work hat. Make sure you take off the coach hat. Make sure you take off the financial advisor hat. Make sure you take off that. And it's so important. But guess what? 9 times out of 10, a lot of times we don't do that. We're staying in the same frame of mind because of what you just said a little bit ago. We are creatures of habit. We are made up of what, 90% water, I think it is? Mm-hmm. Guess what water does? It will always seek for the pattern, the path that's already carved. It looks for patterns. Spill some water on your table. You will find out immediately if it is crooked, if it's leaning, or what leg is a little bit weaker or lower, because it will begin to flow down that pattern. Drop water in your car and it will go in the crevices and it will find them immediately. So guess what? For us as human beings made up of majority of water, guess what we do? We look for patterns as well. Don't go for the easy route. Again, whatever is important in life and valuable and is worth it, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you not just staying on autopilot. It's going to cost you taking time to stop and literally, I have to do this many times. And even today, sometimes I have to stop and say, okay, you're going home. Okay, you got to get out of work mode for a second. Hey, you're about to go to the church. Take it a notch down. Okay, you're not at business. You're not at the office. You're not running a consulting engagement. You got to know where you are. Be very self-aware of where you are and who you are at that moment. And when you're able to do that, your value for your people, the person that's there in front of you, they will love you to the umpteenth degree. They will appreciate you. Because guess what? Most people that know you and that are part of your life, they know that you're a busy man, that you're a busy lady. They know that you're a busy individual. So when you're able to stop and engage with them and give to them what they need from you as the person that you are in their life, they will appreciate you so much more and they will value what you're giving them. But if you just keep it on autopilot and you're just like, hey, take whatever I'm giving you. And that's no way to live. It's really not. And you will lose valuable people in your life that way that could have been helpful to you in the future. And there could have been great opportunity for you in the future, but you lose those opportunities and you lose those relationships because people end up feeling not valued by you, because they're like, you can't take a minute to take a breath and not be that person. You can't just be the person that I know you as. And I'm telling you right now, that will go miles for you at your home. I promise you. I've been married for 13 years, man. I've been almost divorced probably 862 times in the last few years, So take it from me.
Your wife must know my wife.
They're probably Facebook friends. I'll check here in a little bit.
Probably. So I love your message, because your message is eerily similar to the message that I present all the time. I'm always, don't let your highs get too high, don't let your lows get too low, stay very even. When it comes to, and this will be the last question, and then we can kind of wrap it up. And again, I'd love for you to be able to drop your information, where they can find you. I've already put your website and things of that nature on the Facebook page, but some of those links from earlier, love to have those in the news feed there. So we're in a business, because you were a field agent at one point in time. You know what it's like to be told no. You know what it's like to know that you've probably done a really good job by somebody. You've done the right thing. You've presented the right information. You asked the right questions. You found the pain. You did the best that Richard could do in the home, but yet the human being across from you is not a buyer. They're not a buyer. They're somebody, maybe they just needed somebody to talk to that day.
Yeah.
Maybe they needed some companionship. Maybe they're really hard shopping it no matter what you said. You could have been $30 cheaper than the last guy that came in. It didn't matter. What would you tell the new agents? Now, when I say new, to me, a new agent is 2 years or less. We have a rule. Your first 20 appointments are your first practice appointments, and your first 100 appointments is where you gain your experience, right? You cut your teeth.
Nice.
And that could take a year, that could take 2 years to get into your first 100 appointments, right? What would you tell the new agents that are coming on board that are in a business that's not a flashy business, right? The insurance business is not the flashy business.
Yeah.
What would you tell someone who's out there working hard, doing the right thing, comes to training, is absorbing the information, but they go to an appointment and they get told no, and they're not having the type of week that they had planned to have? Maybe they had 5 appointments scheduled and they only sat on 2. The one they sat on was a one-legger, and the other one the person didn't buy. So all in all, it wasn't the greatest week. You're with me on the setup here, Rich?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So
what do you tell them?
That's what you're saying is the average week in the life of an insurance agent. I mean,
well, listen, if you have 10 appointments set, you're going to encounter those 1 or 2 right there, but you're going to make up for it in your other ones, right?
See, so this is always my theory, right? And this is what I do in everything, in every aspect of my business, insurance primarily, in training other agents as well. I teach this in my coaching business, and also whenever I'm also myself and my team, we're working on pitching companies to do consulting work for them, speaking for them, and different things for them. You got to understand this. In sales, the national average is this: 1 out of every 10 people are going to give you an opportunity to sit in front of them and give you an opportunity to give them the best pitch you got, swing for the fences. 1 out of 10. Okay. So if you're able to get in front of a few people, let's say you get in front of 5 people and should be able to close at least 1 or 2, at least, right? But guess what? The numbers don't always work that way. Sometimes it takes 10 people to get that 1 or 2, right? So you've got to get thick skin in this business. And you hear that all the time, right? That's pretty standard. You got to have thick skin. You also got to be okay with hearing no. You got to. Okay, so out of all the different accolades that you've heard that go with my name, and I always tell people, they always say, you got a business card? And I say, no, just Google me. And I'm gonna get a shirt that just Google me. There's so many different things. Thank God, man, that I've been able to accomplish a lot of things within the last few years. A lot of it's happened, in the last few years. And so even all of that stuff, and no matter how I can position myself with very strong, I still get no's. I get a lot of no's. I get more no's than I get yeses. But I don't stop, because if I stop, then the very next opportunity that I have, the very next ask, the very next pitch could be my yes. And so if I stop now, I won't get to the next one. I work under this principle that 1/3 buy now, 1/3 buy later, and 1/3 never buy. Right? So a third of those people that I'm talking to right now, today, this week, they'll end up buying. Somebody will buy. You just got to stay in front of it. You got to understand the principle. A third of those people, they're going to tell you, hey, you know what, let me think a little bit more about it. Let me talk to so-and-so. Let me consult my crystal ball, you know, whatever. Let me open up 14 more fortune cookies to find out if I get the right answer, whether you're the person for me or not. I don't know. Let me just check. Let me think about it. Cool. No problem. Absolutely. Always agree with them, right? And always, of course, try to overcome the objections and do all that. But when you've done all of that and to no avail, guess what? A third of them are just going to buy later. That's the way it is. And a third of them, they're just shoppers. They're always shoppers. They're indecisive. They can't make a decision. It's not you, it's them. It really is. Like you always hear that in a lot of these, like, you know, in the movies and different things and the storylines, it's like somebody breaks up with somebody and they're like, it's not you, it's me. Well, guess what? It's not you. It is them. It really is. You've done your job. You did your due diligence. You gave a great presentation. You prepared the best you probably could. But they are falling in the category of the third that they are not ready to buy. And then they're just tire kickers. It's what they do. Unfortunately, we run into those people as well. So what do? We shut them down. We cut them off. We get them out of the, no, don't do that. Be kind. Be kind. Rewind. No, don't rewind. I mean, what I mean by that is be kind, rewind, right? That's a phrase of the past that will never be known by the generations to come. They don't know what that is. Rewind.
That was from a VHS tape. Was that from a VCR?
Yeah. We used to rent.
My kids will not know what a VCR is. They would have no idea what a VCR.
Exactly.
They won't even know what the DVDs.
They'll never know that phrase, man. Be kind, rewind. It was on all the VHS tapes. So this is the thing, right? Be kind to people. Even if, let's say you bought a mess load of leads and you talk to these people, or you got all these people, you're knocking doors, business talking, whatever the situation is. All of those people, it took hard work, dedication, long hours, sacrifice to get in front of them, get their name, get some information. And so now you're ticked off and you're like, no, they told me no. I don't want to deal with people like that. Really? Well, what if they're the ones that buy it later? Or what if they're the ones that buy later, eventually down the road? All the hard work that you put in, the amount of money that you put in for leads, whatever the situation is, guess what? You purchase that with something, with your time, money, or effort. You've got put them in your business, book of business. Put them in there. They belong in there. They're a potential client. There's somebody that you follow up with later on. There's somebody that you talk with next week. There's somebody you send a text message to later. There's somebody that you send a video message to. There's somebody that you Facebook a friend request, and they're like, that's weird. And then when every time you continue to put posts out there of value for them, they're still in the funnel somewhere. So when you get told no, what does that actually mean? It just means no right now. Get used to it. It happens to the best of us. Some people have never written a book. Some people aren't writing for any publications. Some people have never been, have gone through. I have, but people still tell me no. And so if they told me no, they're going to tell you no. And the people that were before us in this industry, they told them no. Some of the most successful people out there in our industry making 7 and 8 figures, that are making a massive amounts of money, people still are telling them no. But they still to this day,
yes.
but they have grown a tenacity in their spirit, their heart, their mind, to where they say, oh, you mean no right now? Yeah, absolutely. I completely understand. I'll get back to you next week. You grow a tenacity in your spirit where no don't mean no to, it just means no today, not no forever. So grow thick skin, and just know that, hey, you know what? I haven't added enough value yet. I'm going to continue to add value to them. I'm going to befriend them. Maybe they just don't trust me completely just yet, but guess what? I'm about to be your best friend. I'm going to be the brother you never had, the son you always wished you hoped for, the best friend and the professional that you always were looking for. Some way, somehow in the near future, you will be the third that buys later for me, because I'm going to add enough value to you that you're going to have no choice but to end up coming back to me or to follow up. I'll follow up with you and we'll get the deal done somewhere or another.
Love it. Such a great message. Man, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us here today. I could see by some of the comments that, people received it. It was received today, and people obviously with Facebook Live, what I love is, the people that didn't catch it today may catch it tomorrow, the next week. It'll sit here in our group page, and, we look forward maybe sometime in the future, having you back on, or maybe we could do some collaboration together, in the insurance business, and maybe have you come out for, as a speaker. But again, we appreciate the message. I thank you. It was great getting a chance to spend time with you here, and Have a great 2019.
Hey, brother, thank you so much for the opportunity. I truly appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun for me. I love to be able to pour into other people, add value to other people, get people fired up. If I could leave one last just tidbit of just a quick word, that'd be all right?
Sure, absolutely.
All right, appreciate it. Listen, guys, if you're hearing this now today on the live or you hear it later on, never forget this. Every client, every single client, whether it's a $10 client or it's a $1,000 premium client, if you just focus on and you try to pour into them with everything that you've got, like today is your last day, like this is the last client that you're going to have able to help. If you treat every single opportunity like it's your last one, that tonight I'm going to pass away, I could pass away, this is the last day I have on earth. If you treat every opportunity that way, I promise you, you will serve people and you will serve your clients and you will serve your community. You will serve every opportunity to the highest degree, the highest level. I took the opportunity to be able to pour in today. And Brad he didn't pay me to do this or anything like that. He's asked me, and I filled my heart to do this, and I wanted to do this to help other individuals that are in the financial world. For me, I'm trying to pour my heart out here today to just impact somebody, and I'm hoping with the hopes that somebody will grab this and it will be a little bit of fanning to their fire to get them going stronger this year than ever. And I'm pouring it as much as possible. Why? Because I'm treating this like tonight I could pass away. And the reality is this: one of these days, one of these opportunities to speak to a group like this will be my last opportunity. It'll be the last time that I spoke to a group. It'll be the last message that I gave. One of these clients, they will be the last client that I sat down with. And I want to make sure that if it is, I want to have left everything on the field that day. I want to left everything, every last drop out there, knowing that I gave it all. So that for me, I'm a man of faith. So when I stand before my maker, I want to be able to say, hey, I left it all on the field. All the talent, the ability, the energy, I left it all out there, man. I poured it on them. I gave it that client, man. I did everything I could. If they didn't buy, hey, that's up to them. But I gave it everything that I had. Right. Thank you so much for the opportunity, brother. I appreciate you, man. And I really appreciate the invite today.
Thanks, Richard. Thanks again. Great message.
Thank you, brother.
Virtual high five.
High five. Awesome.